Welcome to the Young Money Diet Podcast. Today, I'm joined with my friend, executive producer Brendan Shervy, and we're going to be talking all about education.
Hi, I'm Brendan. I am new to the podcast, so please go easy on me. So we want to talk about education today. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I want to start with a hot take. I think the education system is actually good for preparing people for the real world.
Okay, so education, do you mean specifically greater education, or are you talking holistically, like grade K to 12?
Both.
Both.
All of it combined.
Okay.
And here's why. In your real world job, you're going to end up having to jump through hoops. You're going to have to do a whole bunch of stuff that you don't want to do, but you have to get done. All of grade school and all of university is defined by that statement. Okay. You really don't want to do math, physics, English, all that stuff, but you have to get it done anyways in order to get your degree, in order to get your diploma. So just jump through that hoop anyways, because...
So I agree. And I don't dispute the education system holistically. I think it's more beneficial than detrimental. I think there's a lot of changes that need to be done and implemented with it. But in terms of just having to go and do things that might not interest you, yes, it helps you prepare for the real world. But where I disagree on that hot take is I think a lot of the minutia that you learn is useless. Certain specific, like, I'm a big math guy, so are you. I mean, we've taken numerous amount of math classes. Yeah. I think at some point, it's not valuable. And I'm a huge proponent for math. That's my favorite subject and topic, but I honestly think by grade 12, if you know you're not going into advanced as a physics or science or engineering, why should you have to take calculus or even math 30?
But you don't have to take calculus to get your diploma. Right. What do you need? Math 20-2 technically to get a diploma?
So yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
You're right.
So it's like, yes, you need a little bit of math, maybe like trig and SOHCAHTOA and stuff like that, but you don't need the calculus and the linear algebra, for example. So but I think it prepares you to deal with stuff that you don't want to.
Yes.
Because that's all school is doing stuff you don't want to do.
So I like the social aspect as well, because you deal with different peers, especially in high school. There's lots of conflicts and cliques and niches, and you have to navigate that whole front. So let's talk about university or post-secondary.
Okay, let's talk about it.
So just regarding the hot take, but even this topic, like, do you think, just yes or no, university or post-secondary is worthwhile in general for everybody if you have the opportunity?
For everybody, no.
Okay.
So for engineering degrees, nursing degrees, even teaching degrees, it's a 4-year degree. You get in, you get out, you start making money. Good money too.
Right.
The arts degrees and the like music degrees, maybe that kind of stuff, you spend a lot of money to be there for 4 or 5 years, however many years, and then you don't really get a good job afterwards. Whereas I would like to see more people go directly into a job after high school if they don't really know what they want to do.
Okay.
Just start working right away, and you can go to NAIT. If you go get a ticket at NAIT and start working as a tradesperson, you'll make much more money.
So my challenge is, so you mentioned music. I know a couple people that have gone and done music because it was their passion. They loved it. So that's the big, I think, debate is, do you pursue something that has more tangible economic return, like a job, for example, or something that you could turn into a viable, sustainable work or generating income? Or do you take something for the essence of learning or your passion?
That's a tough question to answer. Because for some people, if they love something, they should pursue it. Absolutely. I think that should be what you do. But if you're kind of on the fence about, I'll just go into business because it's what everyone does.
Yeah.
Is that really worth your time? Are you going to learn anything that you actually like? Or is that just going to be a waste of time and money?
So I agree. Business is a good one you brought up, because that I find that is kind of the catch-all for a lot of people. They think, well, I don't really... I don't want to be in the STEM fields. I don't want to take an arts degree. I'll take business, for example. I know people that have done extremely well with their business degrees, but I think I don't think it's an accident that they've done well. I think they went in because they had formulated. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to learn, and here's the outcome.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
So, like, for example, if you want to work in banking, for example, you can do that with a business degree, but it's super competitive.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to know going in what your intentions are. And not always. I think it's important to go and learn, but I'm a little bit biased. Like, I think in terms of education, I don't think if you have the opportunity, you should just go. I think you should be more strategic, because it's a lot of time in your 20s, and it's also a lot of money.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a lot of money in there, but you learn some valuable lessons in university. So, for example, group projects. Let's talk about group projects. Mm-hmm. That is a major part of university, having to work with people you don't know to deliver some sort of product, whether it be a video, an assignment, whatever it is. That is a critical part of the real world, right. I would argue. And you learn that in university.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just go straight into, if you don't go to university, you don't get that, you know?
I think, so yes, the group projects are good. You do get a little flavor of that within high school. I don't think it's quite to the same degree, because the stakes aren't as high, I find. Yeah. I think in university, it's a lot more impactful to your grade. Mm-hmm. But I do think if if I'm out of high school and I'm not really sure what I want to do, I honestly think it's worthwhile, and I'll probably make a lot of parents upset, but I think it's worthwhile to take that year and not waste that time, but take the year to figure out, is it worth the opportunity cost and just the straight up tuition cost and the time? Because you're going to spend 4 or 5 years, call it half of your 20s or more in university, and I think it's better to go in with a plan. But on the other side of that, I've seen people that have kind of switched and done really well as well. They've gone into business and they didn't like it, and then they switched into these people were kind of high flyers, but into dentistry or med.
That's rare cases, though. You're not going to get that often.
Yeah. So what's your experience with group projects?
Some ups, but a lot of downs.
Okay.
So I've been in 2 group projects, major group projects. Mm-hmm. One was we had to build a robot for second year. You did this project as well.
I remember, yeah.
And I lucked out. Out of the 5 of us in this group, 4 of us were very good hands-on, and we were also very knowledgeable, and all of us knew how to work. Mm-hmm. Except for one guy, he was a little bit absent, but that's expected, right? But the 4 of us, we all knew what we were doing. We all worked hard. And we ended up winning the robot competition because of that. Yeah, you were there watching.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was really fun.
So how did you guys deal with that one person?
We just took on 25% of the work each instead of 20.
Okay. He
did the first little project acceptance letter you have to hand in at the beginning of the semester.
Yeah.
And then just took a back seat.
So I would say that's not relevant to work. Yes, you're gonna have people that pull more weight than less, but there's not gonna be people that don't show up because they won't end up staying in the organization.
But there's gonna be people that have found a way to show up without providing a lot of work.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to deal with that. How do those conversations go in team meetings? Okay, what have you brought to the table? Mm-hmm. Oh, the assignment we sent you last week is still not done. Mm-hmm. Well, now we're gonna have to do it, and we'll give you something else that maybe isn't as major,
right? But
can be done later on.
Yeah. So another thing that I'm a big benefit for going to university is the network. So myself, I'm privileged to have met Cam, for example.
Yep.
And then in Tangent, I've met a bunch of different people within that friend group in my 3rd and 4th year of university that helped bring me up.
Yeah.
And they were a good group that had kind of a very, very diverse way of thinking and getting work done. Mm-hmm. So it was good to enlighten me to expand my own horizons. And I think that's a big thing that you get in university that you might not get if you don't go. And I don't want to say it's worth going to university just for that, but I think if you can make the most of that and meet as many people and on all avenues of thinking and of spectrum, people you agree with, people you don't agree with, I think that's the most worthwhile.
So I would argue the friends is the biggest part of university that I've actually taken from.
How so? How do you mean?
Well, for example, the connections that I've made and the relationships I have made through university by going through all these courses together, those are lifelong friendships that I would never have made otherwise.
Right.
And it's so hard to meet people outside of university that you have similar tastes, you have similar life goals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's really hard to meet people outside of school, and school gives you that.
Yeah, I agree. It's ironic because the world is getting more globalized and we're so much more connected now than ever. But I feel like we're so much more disconnected as well in terms of just everybody's glued to their phones and the connections and conversations aren't real.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the best parts about university was just meeting such ambitious, interesting people.
Yeah.
Because at that stage in life, I shouldn't just say always, because there's always the parents that force people to go, but for the most part, those people want to be there.
Yep.
And so you've kind of got a common goal. It's competitive nature, and then you find the people that help bring you up. And that's a whole podcast topic on its own. Is like, you know, the top 5 people you spend the most time with that's what you're the average of. But I think there's a lot of benefit from university, from extending from group project, but just the people we met.
Yeah. How do you make a more genuine connection than when you have a math assignment due at midnight and it's 11:30 p.m.
Right.
and you got to bump through 3-4 more questions and you have no idea how to do it?
Yeah.
That's when you're looking across the table at the guy and you're like, what do we do?
Yeah, and you figure it out.
You figure it out, right? So
another thing I know you and I differ on is going to class.
Oh yeah.
So what does that mean to you?
Going to class, to me, is the first look at what you're going to be tested on.
Okay.
So when I review for the exam or I review for the assignment or try the assignment, I've already seen everything. I've already sort of learned it at the very least. I've seen it and I've made contact with it. Whereas not going to class, you have to learn everything on your own and then write the exam.
So what's your end goal? Is the end goal to go to class to do the best as possible on the exam, or to learn the most, or both?
I think going to class allows you to learn the most. So for someone like you, I'm going to out you a little bit here. Someone like you who didn't go to class a lot, bumped for 2 weeks during finals, midterms, and then just kind of dumped it all out of your head. I think I would retain more information than you would. Because I had seen it maybe once a month for 4 months, where you've seen it for 2 weeks out of the 4 months.
Right.
And then we both try and dump the information out of our head at the end, but I think for me, it's retained a little bit longer than you.
Yeah. But, okay, so advanced calculus, linear differentials, math 300.
Yeah.
Like, so to me, that was worthwhile to just cram and get the short-term knowledge in and get it in and out as fast as possible. But something like fluid mechanics, or that's actually relevant to some of the work I do.
Okay.
Yes, I think it's more worthwhile to actually go and spend the time learning because you want that longevity. But I think it's sometimes hard because you're taking so many courses and it's kind of like, which one do you prioritize?
So tell me what the final 2 weeks of school looked like for you. Okay, tell me what it looked like.
Well, you called me out. So I was never a student that attended class. And it wasn't just out of, pure, I felt like I didn't need to go. There was, I think there's other opportunities that you get in university that you don't when you're not. So getting involved with student vehicle projects, case competitions, even traveling. I went to like New York and Montreal and Toronto and Calgary all during school, and I missed class for it. But there's tangible benefits that come out on the other side of that. But I don't think it's for everybody. So you have to be able to really be strategic, and you really obviously you need to have that conversation with your professors as well. Yeah. Have the respect for them and also give them the heads up. But what my last 2 weeks look like, I would always cram. I mean, I would lock myself in a room and teach myself an entire subject in 2 weeks, especially the stuff that I just knew I was going to dedicate to short term. And you're right. Probably 3 days after, I couldn't tell you how to spell linear differentiation, let alone do any of it.
So your final 2 weeks was about 16 hours a day of cramming and studying.
Easily.
Doing well, but really working hard. My last 2 weeks were complete opposite. If I wanted to watch TV, I would watch TV. Last semester, I just finished the semester in the summer. I would watch TV before an exam. Me and my friends would go on YouTube and find random videos to watch before an exam because we were all the same way. We all went to lectures and we all learned throughout the semester. So that last 2 weeks or that middle 2 weeks is more relaxed. And I prefer that to the, I need to work super, super hard during these other 2 weeks and where the rest I can just hang out. I'd rather be less stressed at the end.
No, I agree. And I think everybody learns a little bit differently.
Yes, absolutely.
So what are some other, I guess, benefits, or maybe, I know you're very in for education, but maybe what are some of the other things that you think are things you wish you knew before you took the plunge? I don't want to call them regrets, but like what are some things that you look back on because you're almost through now?
Almost through,
that you think maybe wasn't worthwhile?
I think looking back, I would have liked to know more about post-secondary before going in. There wasn't a lot of stuff in high school that said this is what it is. This is useful, this is not useful. There was nothing, no really information in high school that like helped out the students.
Right.
So I wish there was more of that. And then other than that, I just wish people would say, look, you're going to have to work hard. A lot of people said it was going to be easy.
Oh, wow. I was the opposite.
Really?
Yeah. I like that because going back to the high school thing, I remember, I think it was comm class, you do a survey and it's like, based on your survey, you should be in this field or this field or this field. And
right.
It was very like, okay, you're good at math and science, you should be in engineering. You're really good at English, you should be a lawyer.
Right.
Or you should go into business. And I think it's just like, that's your really only one exposure to like that thought, aside from what your parents, oh, you should be a chartered professional accountant because that's what your dad did or your mom did.
Yeah.
I definitely think that, so, and that goes back to my point about even taking the year if you don't know and not wasting that time. So I myself, I wasn't sure about what I wanted to do. And I just asked people. I knew kind of through a mutual, I have no engineers in my family. Okay. And I just asked around and I had like a mutual friend who said, yeah, come shadow me for a day. And he was an engineer at Worley Parsons. Okay. His dad actually gave me the opportunity. So I find if you're interested in something, especially when you're 18, 19, or even if you're 50, all you need to do is ask to get, we're talking about, ironically, we're talking about education. Yeah. Educate yourself about education. If you're interested in some program at NAIT, but you're really not sure what it's about, just go and actually talk to somebody in that job. Yeah. I mean, we're so connected now on LinkedIn. You can just look up a job title and you'll get 20 people and you cold call them all or cold message them. Yep. And you'll get a response. And 9 times out of 10, it might be no, or they might not respond, but all it takes is one person.
You just gotta play the numbers game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's going to be a podcast on its own. It's just talking about ask. All you have to do is ask, and I find most people are very, very willing to provide their opinions or their thoughts, or even bring you along for, if you're not sure about engineering, for example. It's worthwhile to. I mean, we have the privilege of doing co-ops.
Yeah, that's really
18,
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you wish you had known before going to school? And would you do it again?
Would I do it again? Yes, hell yeah.
You would?
I loved it. I wish I had loved it from year 1. And it took me until probably year 3 and 4.
So is that when you met your friends?
I had really good friends throughout different groups. It makes a big difference for sure. Yeah. I think I was just kind of more on a winning streak as well. Okay. Which helps in anything with life. As soon as you get a win, you get that job you want, you kind of get this snowball of momentum. Right. I felt that in my 3rd and 4th year. And I wish, looking back, I didn't worry so much in my 1st and 2nd year. I remember having like almost a meltdown over a physics class in my 1st year. Yeah. And, I was still living at home, and my mom was like, what's the big deal? Yeah. Like, really, retrospect, what's the big deal? Does it really matter if you actually fail a class or not? You can retake it. You won't be the first person, and you definitely won't be the last. There'll be thousands of people that fail after you.
It's funny you mention that. For that exact same physics class, I showed up to the first midterm halfway through. Me and my 3 other friends, we showed up halfway through. We had 45 minutes to finish a hour and a half exam.
Mm-hmm.
We roll up. We have no idea what's going on. We're 45 minutes late. We sit down. I say, okay, look, I have half the time. I should be able to get 50% on this exam.
Mm-hmm.
I tried not to worry about it. I didn't worry about it. I got class average.
Mm-hmm.
My other friends panicked. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't even write their own name on the test. It's like, my life is over. We're 45 minutes late to this one exam. I'm going to fail out. My parents are going to disown me.
Mm-hmm.
This, and this. And they couldn't even write half of the exam when you had half the time.
Right.
So I think it's really important to really not stress that much. You can retake courses.
Mm-hmm.
And if you fail one midterm, who cares?
Yeah.
We've all been there. I've certainly failed a midterm.
Yeah, for sure.
So
to wrap the conversation up, thanks for tuning in and coming in place of
thanks for
Yusuf.
having me. It's interesting being on the other side of the camera.
I think that the big message I want to leave with the audience is just to not make. So we're talking about like our first and second years and some of the things we regret is just enjoy it, have fun, make the most of it. There's so many opportunities that, looking back, I didn't even know about until my third or fourth year. Try to find a really good group because they'll help you a lot.
You need to live and die with your friends.
Yeah, and those are the friends that you carry on for life because, like you said, they're in the same fields, they have the same interests.
Yeah.
It's harder in high school and people kind of go across in their different avenues.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's important to recognize that and just meet as many interesting people as you can. So,
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Awesome. Remember to stay hungry
and stay humble.